you. Joining us in the studio is Keith Vaz, who's the former UK Minister. Thank you so much, sir, for speaking to NewsX. We appreciate your time. Sir, this is unprecedented news that is coming in. We are seeing a former prince being arrested. What are your first observations regarding this arrest? Because this comes with reports stating that the charges might be misconduct in public office.
Good afternoon, Shivani. This is a huge bombshell. It is a great shock that the son of the late Queen and the brother of the current King has been arrested for this kind of offence. So this is massive news in terms of what is happening in Britain, and obviously because Prince Andrew and the royal family are known throughout the world, this is going to be quite a bombshell. I would have imagined before this happened they would have warned Andrew Mountbatten, as he is called now. He's no longer a prince, as we know, because King Charles removed his title, that this was going to happen. He would not have been going about his daily business without knowing. They would have almost certainly informed the King that this was going to happen, and also the Prime Minister, because Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor remains in the line of succession, a long way down of course, but he is in the line of succession to be the King of England. The offence, Shivani, is a very strict one. It's not necessarily to do with the detail of what we've heard as far as the allegations in the Epstein files are concerned. It is while holding public office, you have done something willfully. So it's a very strict offence, carrying, in the end, if a person is convicted, a life imprisonment sentence. So there is a lot between arrest and indictment and trial and then subsequently a sentence. There is a great deal between the two. And the only way the police can actually interview someone is if they arrest them. Then there's an obligation for them to participate. He will of course get legal representation. I would imagine he would get the best possible legal representation, and that then is a matter for the police to decide how they want to proceed. If they have found a case, it will then go to an independent body called the Crown Prosecution Service, which bizarrely is headed by the King, because it is in the name of the Crown, though the King of course has absolutely nothing to do with it. It is the Crown Prosecution Service that will eventually decide whether charges will be able to be taken to trial. So that is a long way off, but the mere fact of the arrest in this way is absolutely massive.
Absolutely, sir. And in fact, you just mentioned that this does not happen in one day or in an instant. You have to inform the Prime Minister, you have to inform the royal family that something like this is going to happen. The fact that it happened on his 66th birthday, sir, do you think, what are the optics behind this? Because this is obviously a huge setback to the royal family as well. Even though he is now no longer a prince, he does not hold that his Royal Highness title, but still, like you mentioned, in a long line of succession, he does still hold a role, sir.
Well, it is, in my lifetime, I've been in public life for 40 years till I retired. I don't think I could ever imagine something like this happening. There have been newspaper articles, of course, about other members of the royal family, but this is part of now the legal process, and therefore people need to be very careful what they say about the case. We don't know what the misconduct actually is. It's a very, very narrow offence. It might have nothing to do with the salacious information around Epstein, which is clearly there and has engulfed a number of other people. It is specifically about what he did in his role as trade envoy, possibly the passing of information. These are the kinds of things they will be looking at. They will not be looking at the allegations that have been made concerning various individuals who are underage and who, the so-called photographs. That, I think, is not part of this. Misconduct in public office is when you go against people who have been in public office.
So, like you mentioned, that even though this might not be related to the entire Jeffrey Epstein scandal that is taking place in the United States, we have the Department of Justice investigating that as well. But do you believe that such offences can be expanded? Like you mentioned, that this is a very narrow charge that we are looking at. Do you think that this this investigation can be expanded, and we can look at an involvement of US authorities as well going forward? Because he has been accused of, I apologize, he has, in fact, those charges that are coming in, it's stated that he is supplying this sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein.
Shivani, we need to be really careful, I think, in trying to draw any conclusions, and I note the fact that you've been very careful in how you put it. This is what we think this is about. We know from the statement that's been made it's about misconduct in public office, and therefore we need to know what that involves. The Court of Appeal recently made a judgment on this and issued a code of practice, because it actually does affect public officials, which includes someone who is acting on behalf of the government as trade envoy. So this relates, I think, to the recent release of documents. There are still many, many more documents that have not been released by the State Department, which might affect other people in public office, not necessarily in the UK, but also in the United States, and therefore people will be waiting for all that information. But this sets a precedent, Shivani. It's an absolutely massive precedent, and I would imagine that this is going to be a top news story all over the world for many, many days to come. At the moment, there's other news happening in Britain. There's a crucial parliamentary by-election going on today, and they're in the UK, and there are other issues. But this is going to be something that is going to have to be followed very carefully. I would think there's probably going to be radio silence from Buckingham Palace, because, as I said, prosecutions are brought in the name of the King. So we have a situation where the Crown Prosecution Service, which exists to prosecute on behalf of the King, is looking at whether or not to prosecute the King's brother. I mean, completely bizarre. This
Absolutely.
is completely bizarre, Shivani.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you for speaking to NewsX and taking out your time. I also thank Ambassador Gupta and Mr. Srivastava for joining us on this broadcast. We are moving on to some news coming in from the AI Summit.